Okay, thanks, Simon. I apologise for being late. But so anyway, I'm only quite recent into the area of scabies, and these are some of the words that kind of got me going, and after learning from Simon, about scabies, and particularly its possible link to acute rheumatic fever. And I've got some words there: disappointed, excited, angry, confused, motivated, and hopeful. Disappointed, I suppose, is after seeing $75 million worth of funding into the throat swabbing campaign for Pacifica, our rates haven't gone down at all. Excited about the new opportunities that are presented here. Angry or confused as to maybe the time it'll take, or for these things to get accepted, and maybe it can push new opportunities, but motivated to do something about it and to pursue this topic, and hopeful that our epidemic of acute rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease, that's born, the brunt of it, of which is borne by our Pacific communities, especially here in Auckland and South Auckland, that we'll be able to turn the tide on this disease, acute rheumatic fever, rheumatic heart disease, otherwise scabies. And so this is part of the rationale, I suppose, for our prevalence study. So why, as Simon's mentioned before, the last New Zealand prevalence study was carried out in the late 70s. It was published in 79. We've seen a prevalence of 18% in Pacific high school students, 10% in Māori, and 2% in NZEO. When you think about the rate of acute rheumatic fever and that kind of stuff, it's quite effective as well, in order anyway. There's strong associations with skin infection, kidney disease, cellulitis, abscesses, and acute rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease. Other papers elsewhere around the world report of a link between acute rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease. And kidney, when I was thinking about kidney disease and thinking about some of our past All Blacks like Jonah Lomu, Jolie Venderi, Lawaki, Sione Lawaki, and there's another one recently who has passed away. Kidney disease is quite prominent in our Pacific communities, and who knows, maybe scabies infestation could be part of what's causing that, as well as these other things. But yeah, the link to acute rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease is what has really caught my attention. And thinking about, I think we talked earlier about skin infections and skin sores and things like that. That study in Fiji, where by treating for scabies, it eradicated 93% of impetigo. So in that country, scabies and impetigo were one and the same thing almost. So I think if the case is similar here in New Zealand, just to treat scabies alone to get rid of, or nearly get rid of impetigo, I think makes a really strong case for us to look seriously at this. And that's the beauty of I think scabies, is that it's easily treated. There is permethrin, when taken, that maybe people develop a tolerance to permethrin, but then also too there's ivermectin as well. And in the break, speaking with Viliami Waroka, I thought that was a great point, Viliami, that saying that, for our Pacific communities, it's always doom and gloom. This could be an opportunity for us to get a run on the board. And if we could eradicate this from our community and our communities here in New Zealand, and if some of the other things happen to fall away as well, that's a bonus. But I think it would be good if we could get this sorted out as a win on the score sheet. We know the Pacific region is a high prevalence region. We have a lot of to and fro from the Pacific region. Our communities here are tight. We go back and forth to Tonga, my own family, very often, and I know the same is the case for our Samoan communities, Niue, Cook Islands, and Tokelau, and Tuvalu in Fiji. And we know that Pacific communities experience the highest burden of all of the sequelae of what can come from scabies. So there's a huge drive, I think, for me, that we could look to this to reduce it, and hopefully a number of other things. And yeah, the point that, I understand, John, in the Bay of Plenty, you've had good results. But I think for Pacific and here, overall, it hasn't worked. And part of the confusion, I think, is that I'm not sure if there's an acceptance that it hasn't worked in the rheumatic heart disease fever community, but I think, $75 million, 5-year campaign from 2012 to 2015. Last year we had the highest rates of acute rheumatic fever in the past decade. We need something else. And at the moment, we're waiting for a vaccine, but there's not, housing, there's not many easy runs that I think we could get that presents a strong case as treating to scabies. So, although it would be great to jump ahead and start treating this and that and the other, scabies is a prevalence study is the first step, absolutely. And again, this is new to me, and I work a lot with Simon Thornley, and Simon is the one that's kind of driving this, and I'm supporting. And I think for our Pacific community, this needs to be a huge priority. There's been a lot of bad publicity about this type of a campaign. Parents have thought it's been victim blaming, and then to think that half of people that present with acute rheumatic fever don't even have a sore throat, and parents are blaming themselves for not taking their children when their kids have got a sore throat. And I reckon if you probably ask anyone in this room or any bunch of humans at any point in time, have you had a sore throat? Half of them are going to say they have in the last week anyway. So it's a hard one, and if it hasn't worked after $75 million, we need to look for something different. The government's confused. Everyone's confused. There was a recent announcement by Honourable Jenny Salazar that they're going to invest $12 million extra into preventing acute rheumatic fever or rheumatic heart disease. Interestingly, the answer, well-being budget to combat preventable diseases with their own initiatives. So that $12 million is going to go to our Pacific communities to try and fix something that DHBs and the medical profession haven't even been able to sort out with $75 million. How on earth are our communities going to come up with the solution? And then on top of that, it goes, it's to support better management of illnesses. So it's not actually even looking at prevention. It's like, we'll just manage it a bit better. Let's not look, it's kind of, you got your blinkers still on. That's how I feel. Okay. So the other options, we've got a vaccine, and from what I understand, the vaccines and developing them, it can take a long time. And a lot of messages, as it could be 5 years or 10 years away, we're still developing. There's a few different things coming along. Poverty eradication, the determinants of health, those take a long time. They're not an easy win. Housing, I heard the government's reduced their housing target from 100,000 per year to 1, if we can, and they might go out to consult on what their house will look like. So we're not going to get fresh, good housing with many bedrooms to house our larger Pacific families. So I think, it's focused on treatment, and there's no, so if we look at scabies, and if we treat scabies, and if there's that link, even if there isn't the link to acute rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease, we're going to do some good and get rid of scabies anyway, which causes a lot of kids a heck of a lot of pain and suffering and hurt. And then on top of that, it might stop impetigo and a raft of other things. And so this is the sore throats rheumatic fever thing. But I suppose what we're proposing and what our research will be focused towards doing is looking at this, and whether it's a scabies rheumatic fever, and then heart damage link. And we've got something we can treat that here and now. Again, this slide, it's come up a couple of times. I think Simon had it up there, looking at how 93% of impetigo, when you treat scabies, it gets rid of that. So thinking about impetigo and skin infection, and we know that children have the highest rates of skin infection and cellulitis and hospitalisation rates in New Zealand. So here's a good reason as to why we could start here anyways. So we put in a prevalence study, a scabies prevalence study, understanding scabies prevalence to improve the health of Pacifica Māori kids. And this is our research team, Simon Mātiri Harwood, Māori researcher for Asisila Saviva, he's part of our Pacific team, Dr. Miriam Heather as well, you would have heard from Miriam Heather, Roger Marshall, Associate Professor, he's a statistician, and Dr. Amanda Oakley, who is a dermatologist, and also Professor Richard Johnson, who's a infectious disease expert. That's our team. I'd just like to acknowledge them. And just a real kind of brief description of the study, which it's just been, the contract's been approved just last month, so we're kind of in the throes of getting established and undertaken. We'll be looking at early childhood care centres and also primary, intermediate / secondary school students. And the studies will be run as 2 separate studies. And from our power counts, we need about 1,100 children from ECEs and about 950 or so children from intermediate, primary and secondary schools. And we'll be looking only particularly in Auckland, and we will be oversampling our Māori and Pacifica kids in high deprivation areas. And understanding the difficulty in diagnosis, and thinking about the study we went and done, the study Simon led, looking at diagnosis between a nurse and a GP and then a dermatologist. We want to kind of iron up these things, and we're going to look at a few different things there. And so we'll be looking at confirmed diagnoses, which is if you see a burrow and a delta wing sign, and also clinical diagnoses and suspected, but all will be treated. And also we'll be trialling a few novel kind of methods and processes with diagnosis. One is around the PCR test, and I'm sorry, I missed your talk, Cello, but I think we're going to try and hopefully use some of that in this study, which will hopefully help us iron out the diagnosis, but also to using photos and tools like what Oz Diagnostics use in order to be able to, I suppose, diagnose it and share those tools with off-site people, and that has implications for the Pacific region as well, where we know that the scabies prevalence is quite is high as well. So yeah, that's my quick talk, but if you've got any questions, and I'd like to invite Simon up maybe if you have any questions. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Gerhard.
Gerhard, will your study sample reflect the diversity of the Pacific in
it would, because we'll be going mainly to high deprivation and high schools of high proportion Māori and Pacifica kids. So yeah, we'll get a good diverse range of Pacific representation.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Within each of the schools, are you planning to, if each school that's selected, are you going to see the whole school, whole year level, or a subpopulation?
I'd have to have a look at the details of what we plan.
The reason I say it is because from a stats point of view, yeah, you might only need, say, I don't know, 50 or 100 kids from that school, but our experience has been that often the schools, and that it's much more acceptable to the schools and the communities if you screen everyone, and especially if you're going to be offering treatment, because yeah, there's an equity angle of I think seeing you guys and offering you treatment, and the rest of these guys have got scabies as well. No, it's just sorry, no stigma. So that's just something to think about if you're acceptability to the schools. Then my next question was going to be about treatment, and which is often a tricky thing. And I think in this kind of study you are probably obliged to treat, but you have to think about who you're treating, what the case definition is, and whether you're going to treat the whole family. And if you are treating the whole family, which is going to increase your costs by a lot, but it's the only really effective way to do it, it would be worth thinking about whether you could go back in 6 months and see what the impact of that's been, because depending on how much treatment you give out, you might find that your survey is actually quite an effective treatment, treating all the cases in there.
Yeah, no, from the experience in the childcare centre, it was, we offered to treat everyone, but there was kind of a bit of treatment fatigue in the cases that were identified, and often they'd had some permethrin in the past and they're still itchy, and trying to convince them for the family to do it. So I think exploring those sort of barriers to successful treatment will be an important part of the project.
Would you do the pathologist give approval for your ivermectin scripts for the fatigued people?
That's a good question. We're really going to have to think about that carefully. I mean, I think ideally in households where there's been a lot of permethrin use, that we'd like to use ivermectin. Hoping to have a fruitful discussion with my pharmac colleague about letting off the chains on ivermectin.
Have you identified the schools that you're going to be going into?
Not yet, no. We're very early phases. We're still thinking about ethics, and then after that we'll be engaging with the schools.
I suppose thinking about your point, Daniel, about you've got to do the whole school.
Yeah,
you probably suggest which probably maybe what you're getting. You probably want to start engaging the schools as you're doing your ethics, because it will influence the way you play.
Okay.
Marcy, what's the timeline for this? Yeah.
It's a 3-year grant.
Right.
And so 36 months, and it started last month. So, we want to get into schools next year.
Yeah, this does sound like a critical bit of information, doesn't it, to drive this initiative?
That's right.
Yeah, well, from a stats point of view, it's certainly more efficient from a survey sampling point of view to do a couple of classes and then do students within classes. But yeah, we'll have to think about that.
Daniel, in terms of putting scabies on the agenda in Australia, what's worked there to get people to take it seriously?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it is on the agenda. Certainly, it's not in Victoria, and in the Territory. I think it's just been long recognised that it's been really prevalent there, and there had been studies, back to the 80s and 90s, when the rheumatic fever stuff, when Malcolm McDonald and others were starting to do that work, they were documenting scabies at the same time. So there's been a fair few studies back to that time showing prevalence of 50%, or that 80% of kids have seen in clinic before their first birthday for scabies, and those are hard figures to escape, I think. I don't know, it's a much long history there.
Your second objective is to train neural networks to recognize the features of scabies from photographs. So it would be good if you offer treatment, that can be your gold standard. If it got cleared and you took photos of that, then that can be part of your, the photos that you took from the one that responded to treatment. Those can be, you can use those cases as gold standard for this neural network development, because you must have taken photos to these cases who got treated. So if you follow them up from baseline, treatment, post-treatment, and then you upload in this.
Yeah.
So what can be your good reference gold standards?
I think it's a good point. I think the taking photos, basically there's First Check is a company that does teledermatology for children, also for moles, for people who want to get their moles checked out without going to a doctor. And so they've got this infrastructure to take photos, get them uploaded to a website, and it's enormously helpful for documenting what the lesions are and reviewing them and looking for treatment response. So I think it's a possibility of using this technology in the health sector to improve the diagnosis of scabies. If you've got an objective record of the diagnosis and you can get a second opinion on that diagnosis.